Hello you guys, it is Jksthind and welcome back to my channel. So today is going to be a different type of video. So I actually release videos every 3 days, and I had a stockpile of videos that I had recorded, and I usually just pick from those, edit, bam, onto YouTube. It's good. I just didn't feel like putting those out. I wanted to record something new, so I got all dolled up and I'm going to tell you guys a story time. I have so many story times, it's actually kind of crazy. So today's story time takes place a couple years ago, actually. That it wasn't too long ago. So to preface this story time, I have to say this. So I grew up in a really fundamentalist community. I grew up in a super fundamentalist, super religious community, and so there was no talking to boys, there was no guy friends, there was no clothing of any sort, there was no makeup, there was no flashy anything. We lived like a very sheltered lifestyle, I guess. And so I have to preface that because you'll understand down the line in the story why that is important. Yeah, so I grew up in a really fundamentalist community, and that's a whole nother video on its own. How I got into makeup, how I got into this whole what I am now, and how I kind of left that community. That's a whole nother video, and if you guys want to see that, let me know. I'm more than happy to make it. Also, I want to say I do not want any hate in the comments. Please do not be mean in the comments. I want this to be a safe place, and this story I'm telling you because I feel like it has value in the sense that there was a lesson learned from it. So I don't want any negativity in the comments down below. It's been a while. I don't have any emotional connection to it anymore. So I don't feel like this is a bad story to tell. Also, I will be changing people's names just because I don't want to give people that kind of shout out. This is my experience to tell. This is my story to tell, so I'm going to tell it. So 2016. So 2016, I actually came upon this friend, and this friend was a total gym rat. She loved to go to the gym. She had a lot of fun, and I don't honestly even remember how we became friends, but we became friends and we started to gym together. And it was a cool thing because I didn't really know anything about the gym at that point, but I thought it would be a really cool experience to get to, like, you know, kind of go in with someone who kind of already has been gymming for a little while, and to be able to just have like a gym experience. And so we were doing really well. I really loved it. It was so much fun. Like, I loved gymming, especially with her. And you know, at the end of the day, we were still friends. The whole gym thing came after us becoming friends. And so we became friends, and it was cool. We, like, you know, we were gymming together. We were also friends. We were kind of like always together. And so at that point, I was very naive, and I was very sheltered. I had also, this was like my first semester ever wearing makeup. So this was a semester where I was really trying to get out of my little bubble. This was my sophomore year in college, and I was like really trying to get out of my bubble and trying to experience new things. So there was another friend. So the gym rat friend, we're just gonna call gym rat friend. And then there was another friend. She wasn't actually my friend at all. She was more of an acquaintance that I had met through other people. And she, the very first day, this is mind you, the very first day that I've ever worn makeup to school, she sees me and she's like I had like this colorful eyeshadow on, albeit it wasn't that great. I agree. But the first thing that she said to me was, "Oh, you're wearing makeup? It doesn't look that great." And I was like, excuse me? But regardless, we're gonna call her Banana because I don't like bananas. So we're gonna call her Banana, okay? So that's the acquaintance. I'd already had a bad vibe from her. I didn't really talk to her or anything like that. I was just like, okay, you're here. You're my gym rat friend's friend, right? So you're here. I'm gonna tolerate it. So then, this is me introducing all the characters. So I also had two friends that, well, two people that I was close to that were acquaintances from the community that I had grown up in, and also they were kind of close with my cousin. So we're gonna call them Thing 1 and Thing 2. So these are like the four main players of this story. And then in between you have me. So I was gymming with this friend, and I really liked gymming with her. It was really fun. We would, you know, share like tips and tricks and blah blah blah, and like we really shared most of our life together, and it was fun. It was a really fulfilling friendship. We, you know, did a lot of stuff together, and we experienced a lot of experiences together. We started opening up about, you know, I opened up about like, you know, my past and, you know, like my childhood and everything, and she opened up about her past, and I was always very, very respectful. As far as our relationship went, I thought we were cool. So I went shopping. And I specifically remember it was in H&M. Went to H&M and I picked up this shirt. It was an olive green top. And back in 2016, there was like it was like a plunging V-neck, and then it had like little laces in the front to lace it together. So it was kind of like a little sneak peek, you know what I mean? And so I got one of those shirts and I was like, oh, this could be cool. I didn't know how I was gonna feel about that, because at that point I was still wearing leggings with all my dresses. I was wearing full sleeves, etc, etc. Super, super conservative. And so I picked it up and I was like, oh, this could be cool, you know? So I get home and it just kind of lays in my closet for a couple months, and I pick it up and I try it on. It's probably honestly still in my closet. I've never even taken the tags off of it. This was around like November, December, right? So I'm like, oh, okay, like, you know, let me just try this on. Let me see how I feel about it. So at that point, I was wearing nothing of that sort. So I tried it on and I was like, huh, I think it's kind of low. I think it's kind of a low cut, but I'm not sure. So I open up my Snapchat and I send my trainer friend a picture, and I'm like, hey, do you think this is low cut? Because I don't know how I feel about it. And she takes screenshots. And this wasn't out of the ordinary, because I would send her stuff and she would take screenshots. She would send me stuff and I would take screenshots. It was just kind of how our relationship worked, and that's totally fine. Every single time that had ever happened, we would delete it. I would delete it, she would delete it, and it would be fine. So I was like, oh, okay, whatever. Like, it was nothing out of the ordinary. And so she's like, oh, it's a little low cut, but it's not too bad. And I'm like, oh, okay, whatever. And at that point, it was sort of like more into December than November, and there was just no point in wearing it because it was already December and it was already too cold. Totally gets out of my mind. I'm studying my ass off for my finals. I'm doing what I need to be doing, and, you know, I'm not thinking about anything of it. And I'm studying for like 8+ hours. I nothing ever crossed my mind, right? I go ahead and I take all my finals, and it was December 16th of 2016. And I remember I came out of my class and I'm like, my phone is just blowing up with messages from my brother, and I'm like, oh shit. So I open it, obviously, because I'm like, oh my god, like, you know, something might have happened. And he's just like, oh my god, your nudes are being spread all over Sac State, blah blah blah, this and that. And I was like, wait, I've never even taken nudes. Like, at this point, I was so conservative. I was like, I haven't even taken. I was like, what do you mean, you know? So he sends me the picture. That was that screenshot, right? So at that point, I'm like, wait, there's only one way that this could have gotten out. And it was that one friend. And I was like, I don't understand why she would, you know? So I'm like, okay. I put on my little detective cap and I start investigating. And I'm like, oh, okay. I'm like, okay, so the only person that had those pictures was this one friend. So I message her, obviously, and I'm like, hey, like, you know, did you send those to anybody, right? And she's like, no, I don't even know. I deleted the screenshots, blah, blah, blah. And she's like swearing up, down, left, right, whatever. And she's like, I didn't do anything to them. And she shows me her camera roll. She shows me her recently deleted. And I'm like, okay, I don't think anything of it. I'm like, it has to be something else. Something might have hacked into one of our phones or whatever, right? And then I started thinking. So the picture that my brother had sent me was a picture of somebody's hand, like someone's phone in their hand, and like another picture snapped of it. So I'm like, okay, all right. I knew pretty much every place on campus. So I was like, if this happened on campus, I would know exactly where it happened. So our library, our Sac State library has like very, very like, they have like wood grain top tables, except they're not wood grain. They're like a shiny like vinyl on top. And I kind of recognized it because the way that the light was bouncing off of it, I was like, wait, that's actually a second floor library. And I knew pretty much everybody who hung out at the Sac State Library on the second floor because I had always gone there to study. That was our study place, whatever, right? So I'm like, okay, that narrows down the possibility of this to a very, very narrow scope, right? So then I'm like thinking. My little head is churning. There's like a backpack in the corner and it's black. And I'm like, okay, that's a valuable note. And also the person whose hand was in the picture, their nails were plain, right? They were plain, but they were long. So I was like, okay, all right, whatever. Never even dawned on me to, you know, like talk to these girls or anything like that. So I'm like, okay, whatever. Like, you know, at this point, anybody that I was like hanging out with or anything like that, I was like really, really upset. And, you know, obviously like I was so naive at that point that I thought that this was gonna ruin my life. I really thought that this was the end of my life. And here's the thing, I had friends who were also conservative and they were feeding into this narrative of your life is over because these pictures have come out. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, oh my god, my life is over, my mom's gonna find out about this, blah, blah, blah. Just like my mind's racing at 1,000 miles an hour, right? So I'm like, okay, all right. So it has to be this gym rat friend. I'm like, okay, so what aren't you telling me? And she's like, yeah, I screenshotted them, but I left my phone on the table. And so thing 1 and thing 2 were there. So they probably went into my phone because I don't have a lock on my phone. And I was like, first of all, you live in 2016 and you don't have a lock on your phone? That's crazy. You leave your phone unattended and you don't have a lock on your phone? Suspicious, but let's not talk about that. So I'm like, okay, I'm like, I need you to tell me the truth because I know that's a lie, right? So she doesn't tell me anything. She swears up, down, left, right that, you know, it was just, she left her phone and then they took a picture of her phone. All right, so I'm like, okay. So then I go to thing 1 and thing 2 and I'm like, okay, thing 1 and thing 2, what happened? They had a totally different story. So they told me that it was Gym Rat Friend who had showed them the pictures and they took a picture just to show me that Gym Rat Friend had them. Mind you, this was 3 days before 3 days before my brother texted me and showed me like, hey, this is what's happening, okay? So I'm like, all right, so that still doesn't explain how my brother got them. But okay, so I'm like just sitting there and I'm like, okay, there has to be another link. And I'm talking to my cousin, I'm like, look, there has to be another link because this can't happen. I was like there's too many gaps in this story, so I have to fill these gaps. So I'm like, okay, what I know for a fact is that Gym Rat Friend took screenshots. What I also know is that person holding the phone in that picture is thing 1 and thing 2. Okay. So those are the only 2 things that I know. Now, I had known that thing 1 and thing 2, or thing 1 had a class with this banana friend, right? So this banana had a class with both the Gym Rat Friend and thing 1. So I'm sitting there and I'm like, huh, it doesn't seem too out of character for her. So I go and I ask thing 1 and I'm like, look, and again, the fact that I had to beg them to tell the truth is probably the thing that irks me the most about this story, right? I mean, there's a lot of different things that irk me about this story, but that's probably one of the big ones. Because it's like, look, if you did something, just own up to it, because when someone else finds out through somebody else, like somebody will break and then you will be exposed. So I told thing 1, I was like, look, I understand that you don't want to get in trouble, but tell me what happened and I won't be so hard on you, you know? So then thing 1 tells me, Gym Rat Friend had taken these screenshots, sent them to Banana, and then Banana, while they were in the library, showed it to them, to thing 1 and thing 2. Thing 1 then took a picture and put OMG on the bottom. And I'm like, okay, making sense. And she was like, yeah, that's all that happened. And I'm like, okay, so how did my brother get them? So I'm like, okay, we've already established that. So then I'm like, I confront Banana and I message her and I'm like, look, I need to know exactly what happened. She swears up, down, left, right on every single religious text. She's like, I didn't do anything. This had nothing to do with me. She had been telling Gym Rat Friend and Thing One not to include her because she knew that I would be pissed. I already had suspicions about her when she said that whole thing about makeup. Here's genuinely how I feel about makeup in general. If somebody's doing their makeup and they like how they look and they feel confident, let them be. It might not be the way that you do your makeup. I love a full face beat, but I see people all the time that have just foundation on or whatever. I keep my mouth shut. As long as it makes them happy, I don't care, right? I don't care. I don't go out of my way to say things to them like, oh, you don't need that, no, all that, right? So I'm still wondering. I'm like, okay, so how did my brother get them? And mind you, this is like a week after, this is my winter break at this point, right? And I'm like, I'm so annoyed right now because I could literally be enjoying my time. This is Christmas time. And I'm like, I could literally be enjoying my life, but you guys are making it so hard. So I'm just like, okay, so where is the link, right? And like, I asked Thing One and Thing Two multiple times. I was like, what did you do with the picture after you got it? Regardless of how you got it, what did you do with it after? I need to know the steps. So Thing One and Thing Two decided it would be a great idea to send that picture not only on Snapchat to other girls that had been in the community that I was raised in, but also send it in a group chat on messages to a girl that they knew that I did not like, that did not like me. We'll call her Cookie. So Cookie was dating a guy that knew my brother, okay? So they put this picture in a group chat with Cookie, knowing that Cookie's boyfriend would see it and probably tell other people because Cookie's boyfriend didn't like me. So they send that picture over to Cookie. Cookie's boyfriend screenshots it and he sends it to my brother telling him, look at what your sister's doing. And that's how my brother got it to me.
Also, editing Jazz here. I just don't understand why nobody stopped it. At any given time, any of these people could have stopped this. There was like failure on so many different people's parts, literally from Gym Rat to Banana to Thing One and Thing Two to Cookie to Cookie's boyfriend. Like, they all had the power to stop this. And what blows my mind is none of them did. And that shows you a lot about their character than it does about mine. But that's a whole different story for a whole different day. But just the fact that no one stopped it, everyone knew that this was wrong. This was blatantly wrong. And for them to shame me about it later, it's a moot point. Like, you could have stopped if it was so shameful and you cared that much and you knew it was that shameful, then why did you spread it in the first place? Makes absolutely no sense to me. That's all I have to say.
And I'm literally sitting there and I'm thinking, my life is in shambles. This is it. This is all. I contemplated killing myself at that point, which so glad I didn't because I have so much more to live for. The picture itself, let's talk about that for a second. The picture itself was not a nude. The picture itself was not anything risky. It wasn't anything like that. It was a decent picture. It was not even a plunging v-neck. It was a v-neck that went down to maybe like right there. Plunging would be even worse. It went down to there. And you saw a little bit, and it wasn't that big of a deal. However, one thing that I would like to know is the fact that not only did multiple people fail me in that instance. The first thing that I asked Thing One and Thing Two, I was like, okay, I sat down with them at Starbucks and I was like, look, I just want to know why. That's my only question for you, why? Because did I do something? Did I say something? Because we were around each other a lot. So I was like, did I do something? Did I say something? Like, as much as I had known, we were on great terms. And she was like, oh, I don't even know. I don't know why I did it. And I was like, that is the dumbest response to that question. I, at that point, was so heartbroken, because not only was this happening to me from people that I trusted, right? These are people that I hung out with. After all of this happened, I remember, and I think this is the most valuable lesson from this entire encounter, is the fact that everybody around me thought it was such a big deal. They were like, don't ever do that kind of shit again. I have screenshots from people being like, oh my god, you're so stupid. Oh my god, you're so dumb. Like, how could you? And I think if I were to go back and tell myself, like tell my old self one thing, I would have a couple of things actually. And the first thing would be get new friends, get better friends, because something like that should not define you. Nobody should be telling you that your life is over a picture of a shirt that's low cut. That is not, no. And the second thing I would like to tell myself, I would have liked to tell myself, is that it's okay. This isn't the end of the world. This isn't the end of life as you know it. And I get teary-eyed just thinking about it, because I remember sitting there December 26th on my bedroom floor and thinking my life is completely over because this happened. Looking back at it now, it feels so dumb because this took over such a huge part of my brain and my life. It just makes no sense at all. I wish I could tell myself that my life is not over at all by any means. It was just one of those things where I think looking back at it now especially, I realize the importance of those moments, because had all of that not happened, I really wouldn't have been able to be as confident as I am now and be able to show off my body and be proud of my body in the way that I am now. And it's one of those things where I used it as an example to be like, look, people are always going to feel how they feel about your body. You don't have to feel that way. For thing one and thing two, to feel like that it was such a big deal that I was wearing this low-cut shirt in the privacy of my own room at my own home, and for them to take this picture and send it out to other people just shows it. And again, like, this is something that it took me years to realize was the fact that this was in no way, shape, or form a reflection of my character. People in my life at that point tried to make it a symbol of my character and like how much of a low life I was. It had nothing to do with me. It had things to do with them, and it had everything to do with how they felt about me or how they felt about gossip or anything like that. And I think from the entire situation, I do not talk to any of these people anymore. I think the only person that's ever hit me up after that was Gym Rat Friend, and I've seen Thing 1 and Thing 2 at like community events or whatever. I've never talked to Banana. I don't think I've ever even seen Cookie after that, or her boyfriend. At the end of the day, your body, it's your body, your rules. And I genuinely believe that. I genuinely believe that it's your body, your rules, and no one should ever make you feel ashamed of your body. And I am more than willing to go into depth about my friends at that time, outside of these people, that told me time and time again that I should be ashamed of my body and I should be ashamed of showing my body. And here we are years later, and I'm making money off of makeup, and I am pursuing my dreams, and I get to model in beautiful clothes, and I get to show off my body, and I get to do all these beautiful things. And it's an ode to how much you bloom if you weather through really, really stupid time. But yeah, and so that is the time that someone tried to leak my nudes. It was not even close. I've had people so many times from that community tell me like, oh, like, you know, you shouldn't be wearing makeup. If you dye your hair, if you dye your hair, we can no longer be friends. And I laugh about it now because it's so comical. It's hilarious because it's like, what? That's the prereq to being your friend? But again, like, that's a whole nother story for another day. I just thought that this would be a really funny story to tell because it's one of those things where perception is everything. And I think once you have contrast from that life, like now I have contrast. I have contrast from that life. But yeah, that is all that I have for you guys today. Let me know what other kinds of videos you guys want to see from me. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in a video super soon. Mwah! Bye guys.